This is a brief video demonstration of our framework database that we utilize in-house to manage our own business, but also as a start point for developing custom FileMaker systems. I'm going to step through a variety of different modules within the database, a scenario whereby we have a new prospect that we're going to quote some work for them. That quote can be converted into an active project, log some timesheets against that project, and then invoice that time and email it across to the client. We'll have a brief look at some reporting functions within the database and how it can be managed as far as user preferences and system settings and the like. So for a start, we're on the company screen here. It's identified using a particular color at the top of the screen. We use color within the system to help users immediately identify the screen that they're on and the type of data they're looking at. So as we're navigating around, you'll see different colors. So it's green for companies, it's blue for contacts, it's orange for quotes, and so forth. And that helps to reinforce to the end user where they are within the system and ensure that they don't get lost. So I'm going to create a new company here. I'll click the new company button up in the toolbar and I'll start typing the name of that company. You'll see as I'm typing there's a type ahead picker function which identifies if this particular company already exists in the database. In this case, I'm going to create something called testing company. There's no organizations that match that name, so I'll click new and that will establish a new record for me here in the database. So they are a client. We can select the industry that they relate to, a construction company. There's the opportunity to put an ABN number, which is a unique identifier for this particular company in Australia. What was the source of them? It was an internet search. Phone number that we can record in here. We can record both the physical and postal address. We've actually got some integration here with Google Maps so that we can use an address picker. So in this case I'm going to say 12 High Street. So as we're typing along here, we can see it's using a type ahead style feature once again. We can select the address. It will write that down into the database here. I can copy that across into the postal address area. We'll put info@testco.com. So we've got an email address. We can also insert a logo if we wanted to that can be displayed via web interface or included in correspondence that goes to this particular organization. But at this point we've set up some of the basics. We'll see there's a lot of additional sub-tabs here across the top which give additional information relating to this particular organization. But in this case, because we've set up the company record, we'll now set up a contact for this organization. I'll click the plus button here relating to the portal that is company contacts, and we're going to type in a person's name. Once again, it's got that same sort of picker mechanism that alerts us to the fact that this particular contact may already exist. So we're going to put in a person called test contact. We'll click new. It gives us a brand new contact record, inherits the phone number and address details from the company that we just set up a moment ago. We'll put in some further information which is specific to this particular contact. They are a prospect at this point. The email address, so this was test@testco.com. We can put other personalized information for this contact in terms of their phone contacts. So we could put in a mobile number in there, Skype, address and the like. In this case, this person's interested in our services, so we're going to raise a quote for them. So we'd go to the quote tab, click the plus icon, the top right of screen there, and what we do is we go to a particular screen that is geared around creating a new quote. So it would be Testco CRM, let's say, new custom FileMaker solution includes X, Y, and Z. What date we're quoting, and we've got a series of products that we can select from. Obviously, in our circumstances, we don't have a broad range of products that we're selling. However, for other applications, this may be the complete set of products that a particular company is selling, and they could filter on a product code or a SKU, the type of product, and in doing that, you can then assign them to the quote. So we can build items in this quote. I can either create blank items, so I can say this is item 1, item 2, and this could be item 1 description, and it's 4 of those at 100, and there's 12 of these at 22.50. So as we're filling out details, we can see it's tallying up this particular quote. So these are manual items. We can also assign individual items to the quote. So if we click here, in this case, it's going to ask us the quantity we would like. So FileMaker license renewal. So if I set 3, and it will copy that item down. And in this case, we might add a couple of these other items here. Once again, depending on the configuration, it's asking a question in terms of the quantity we would like to add. Because these are coming from our product database, you can see it copies down the code, the particular product, and the description's already filled out. So we can build quite detailed quotes, which are a combination of manually defined items, which are very specific to this particular quote, or we could utilize individual products that we've got already configured in our product database. If I just remove that item we've just added, and you'll see the very top item here under the bill of materials column, it is checked to say it's a bill of materials product. And if I assign that, because it's a bill of materials based product, what it will actually do is add a whole combination of products to the database. So we could still then tweak the quantities and the rates that are associated with those, but we can see that based on specific packages that we might have already pre-configured, we can put together a quote quite quickly in the database. Once we're done, we could then send that out to the customer. So I click on the Actions menu in the top right here. We'll say we want to email that. Now, what it does is it establishes a new email record in the database to represent this quote email we're going to send out. It is related to the company and the contact and this particular quote. And so what it's able to do is, using an email template, it's able to merge content from the database. So we can see here, this is the specific quote number. It's addressing it to the person. So this was test contact that we were sending it to. Please find attached. Once again, we're personalizing the communication that's going out, the quote number and their company name. Feel free to contact us, and it's signed off based on my details because I'm the person who's raised this particular quote. If we click the send button, that goes into the background. Now we could have tweaked that email if we wanted to, add additional text on top of the standard template text. But now if we go back to the quote and look at the emails tab, we can see here that this email has been sent and there's a record of that. At any point, if we wanted to view that particular PDF, we could have a look at that. So we've got that recorded, a history of that particular communication with this customer and this individual relating to this quote. So if I navigate across to the quote again, we'll see this hyperlink style navigations available to us throughout the database. We'll click the quote label, take us to the quote. Now, the prospect has come back to us and they've said, well, we'd actually like to go ahead with selected items in here. So I'm going to check and uncheck particular things, and this is the scope of work that they would like to proceed with. There's the opportunity to duplicate this quote, so we might create a variation of this based on their feedback. So they're effectively quote options, but once we've come to a point whereby the person has approved our quote, we can convert that to a project. Now, our particular system uses the terminology project, but if you think about a project as being the work which you are carrying out or the thing you are selling to your customer, you could look at that slightly differently and say, well, it's a project, it's a job, it's an order, it's a sale, regardless of the specifics of a particular business. The general thinking is the same. So I'm going to select the status and say this has been accepted. Accept this quote and convert it into a project. Yes, thank you. So it's now going to establish a project in the database for us. And we can see it's copied across just those items that we've selected as being ordered. So we can start working on this project. We could add additional team members to the project. We could add additional third-party contacts who are going to perhaps participate in this project. Other people who are involved with testing company, we could assign them so that this is giving us a nice complete picture of what's going on with this particular project. I'm now going to go across and log some time. So as we're carrying out time against this project, I can raise a timesheet, and it was Testco CRM, so we can select that there. We can see we've got the option of logging our time against various activities or tasks that were established for this particular project, and we could specify time, so 1.75 hours. A description of that time / activity, and if we go back across to that project now and go to our slips tab, which represents timesheets for us, we've got a record of some time that's been logged on this particular project. So when we're actually billing our projects, we could bill using two different methods. We could use time and materials, so we're logging time and billing that time onto our end client. Alternatively, we could use what we refer to as a selected task method. So if I go to the finance tab and we have selected task method selected at the moment, if I click invoice, it will give us an opportunity to invoice this project in part or in full. So we might say we're going to invoice 50% of this item and all of this item and not the third item. So we've deselected that there, and we click raise invoice. We could specify a particular invoice date if we wanted to backdate it to yesterday, for instance. We click continue here. Now what that's going to do is it's going to raise a new invoice record in the database, reflecting the items that we selected and have configured on the previous screen. It's going to calculate out the subtotal and the tax that's applicable, a 10% goods and service tax in the case of our work here in Australia, and it's addressed to a particular person. Once we're happy with this invoice, we could finalize it, and then we could email that. Once again, just like the quote, it creates a particular email which is using a template. So as I've just done there, please find attached the deposit invoice for Testco CRM. Feel free. So we can put in additional details in here as we require. We We could add additional parties to this email in terms of CC and BCC. We click send and away that goes there. So that's another communication now that has been logged against this particular project. So if we go back across to the project now, we'll see that we have our finance record, we have our email record, which represents the finance email that we sent out. The project belongs to a quote, so that was the quote that it was originally spawned from. We click across here, we've got communication there. If we go back to the company now, we've got multiple emails. So the quote email that went out, the invoice that went across, we can see that we've got one quote in here, and we've got one project, and we've got one outstanding invoice here. So quite quickly, we've started to put together correspondence with this particular customer, and we're starting to record a chronological history of the various transactions that have transpired with this particular person. The database also provides significant reporting capabilities. So we have a saved search function. So if we click on this magnifying glass icon at the top here, in each of the modules there's particular what we call saved searches. So these are, I guess, find criteria that have been recorded. So if there's not many here in companies other than to find those customers that have outstanding invoices. But if we went across to another module, so for instance into the slips module, and in here we can see that find us all the slips for last month which have not been invoiced, slips this month not invoiced, slips this month which are relating to leave, and we can click on here and see that this is actually recording the criteria that make up this particular search. So it can be customized, and in fact we're using sort of like reserved search terms here. So this is a dynamic search. So when we say slips last month, it's using this parameter last month, so that whenever you run this particular query, it's going to give you results which are relevant to the date on which you run it. There's also reports available. So these are predefined reports. If we click on the report icon, we'll see that there's various reports, charge versus no charge, by client, by months, by user, grouped together, so slip detail. And if we click on each of those reports, we get a description of it, an example of the report, and a variety of output options. So do we want to see this report on screen? Do we want to print it, email it, export it out to Excel, or perhaps produce a PDF? And depending on which module you're in this case we're looking at slips or timesheets module, there's going to be different reports which are available to you. The system itself is highly configurable in terms of various preferences that are available to customize it. So if we go into the settings area, we can see some general information in terms of the name of the organization, their address, logos and the like, which will be used on communication and branding, on reports and invoices and those sorts of things. And then each of the modules has different, I guess, preferences which can help configure the behavior of the system. The templates which we looked at a moment ago when we raised a new invoice or a new quote, we click on the quote template here and we can see those merge fields that are able to customize the communication that we're sending out to our prospects and customers. It's quite sophisticated. We use it for both email and outbound SMS messages from the database here. In addition to the data that we're recording in FileMaker and working with the customer, we also have a variety of integration with other third-party applications. So accounting applications like Xero and MYOB, payment processing gateways to process credit cards and make direct debits, sending of SMS messages via SMS gateways, parcel deliveries and other third-party CRM systems. So whilst we consider the FileMaker database to be the hub of the business management software. We integrate with other applications as is required. That's a brief demonstration of our FileMaker database that we use for ourselves and use as a start point for custom FileMaker solutions. Gives you a bit of an idea of the type of development that we carry out. If you've got any questions, please get in contact. The phone number is 0419 324 385, or send an email to Shaun, SHAUN, at insightfulsystems.com.au. There's further information regarding our services, case studies of clients available on our website, www.insightfulsystems.com.au. Thank you.